Maybe you're not really vibing with the world right now. Well, there might be a book for that. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Angela, and yeah, today a little bit of a more, let's say, improvised roundup video where I want to look at books that have friendly vibes, cozy vibes, because the video that I originally planned, yeah, I for the life of me couldn't get it together and I have no idea why. So I thought, let's change track and do something very different. Now, I didn't do this totally unprepared, but I did a little bit of research, at least I tried to. And if you Google cozy fantasy, for example, Goodreads will tell you that they have over 2,000 titles in that category. And I was thinking, that many? Right. And when I then looked at some of them, amongst other things, this book came up. Now, I'm sure this is a wonderful book, at least what I've heard of it so far. It's a wonderful book. I haven't read Mark Lawrence's The Book That Wouldn't Burn yet, but I know it seems to have an absolutely wonderful library setting. And I think this is why it's on that list, because I can't really think that Mark Lawrence, who I absolutely love as a writer, would actually write cozy fantasy. But anything that has book or bookstore in the title seems to be automatically on that list. So I was wondering, right, that list might not be that helpful after all. So I did it the very old-fashioned way. I went to my bookshelves and have a look and a rummage. What would I read when I need a little bit of a pick-me-up in book form? And this is what today's list is and how it came about. And as all my roundup lists, it's of course totally subjective and totally incomplete. Okay, let's start with my two go-to authors, so my favorites when I'm a little bit in a slump and want something that's lighter and maybe a bit humorous. One of those authors is this one here, which I talked about in my last video, the wrap-up video a little bit as well, Walter Mörs. This is the last of his books, Die Insel der 1000 Leuchttürme. But if you don't read German, but you still want to try his books, I recommended in that video Captain Blue Bear, so the 13.5 Lives of Captain Blue Bear. Walter Mörs is very much, a quirky author. He's very much on the quirky side when it comes to his inventions, the world building especially. So he has created this whole continent called Zamonien. And he is very much, as I say, quirky, not too heavy on any of the themes. So the one that I just showed you, Die Insel der 1000 Leuchttürme, it has a little bit of an environmental impact theme going on as well. But overall, Mörs is relatively light on the themes. The books live really from this quirkiness of world building. In Captain Blue Bear, we have a tornado with people living in it, or kind of like pirates that are so small that they can use a walnut shell as their boats, and a whole array of other kind of like quirky inventions like that. The other distinguishing feature is how he uses language. The books are very much geared towards wordplay, and a very playful kind of like handling of language, and that's what, where the humor is coming from, and also where the lightness is coming from. So he would be one of my go-to authors. The other one is, like for many people as well, Terry Pratchett. I have two here. One is the first one in the Witches cycle, Equal Rights, and the other one is Guards, the first in the City Watch cycle. One of the big questions with Terry Pratchett always is, where do I even start? I think there are over 40 Discworld books. You can, of course, read them in publication order. I started that way, so I started with The Color of Magic and then Light Fantastic, and then decided, nah, let's do this a different way, and instead picked up the Witches cycle and read this. So this was the first, let's say, complete cycle that I read by Terry Pratchett. Equal Rights, and you can see already with the title, Pratchett as well likes puns, likes wordplay. This is about a young witch who wants to attend the Unseen University and wants to become not a witch but a wizard. So Equal Rights. The other one, Guards, the first in the City Watch cycle, introduces Sam Wimes, but also one of my favorite Discworld characters, Lady Sybil. So yeah, definitely, as I say, a go-to for myself as well if I want, yeah, a book that's a bit more friendly. So mind you, Discworld overall has much more social commentary than Walter Mörs does. And also, I think social satire is, yeah, quite a feature of those books. But those two, Walter Mörs and Terry Pratchett, would be my first port of call if I want something that's friendly, not too heavy, and basically puts me back into a good mood. The book that, of course, everybody mentions when we hear the words cozy fantasy is, of course, Travis Baldry's Legends and Lattes. I haven't read this book yet, but it's on my radar. Not just on my radar, I got the e-version of this book, so it's on my ebook reader, just waiting there for me to be picked up, basically. Again, a book I heard a lot of good stuff about. It seems to be about a female orc who was a mercenary, so a warrior in a way, and she has enough of this lifestyle, retires, and wants to open a coffee shop. And yes, that just sounds, again, quirky, charming, adorable. And yeah, I'm actually looking forward to picking up this book, maybe somewhere around Christmas. It sounds like something that I might want to read sitting next to a Christmas tree. The next two books in this roundup are what I would call in the category of a crew of misfits is trundling through space. So they're a form of, let's say, light-hearted space opera. One is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Here we have Rosemary Harper, who, yeah, wants a bit of an adventure, wants to have a place where she can park herself for a while, and yeah, also of course make perhaps a bit of money. So she joins the crew of the Wayfarer, which is a spaceship, and yeah, it's as I say, again, more on the light-hearted side, not completely devoid of, let's say, yeah, action scenes, or also scenes that might be a bit, how shall I say, on the more deeper side. But overall, again, a good vibes book, a book that gives you, yeah, brings you into a good mood overall and has a positive outcome, positive message in a way. The next one is a book I haven't read yet, but again heard good things about, Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. So because I haven't read this, I can't really tell you a lot about this book, but the three kind like things, or four things, the four things that are on the cover here: kidnappers, alien emperors, psychic cats, and she's out of coffee. Okay, do I need to know more? Probably not. Sounds again more on the quirky side. Seems again to be about kind of like a crew of misfits on a spaceship. Hey, why not? My next book is very different from the ones that we talked about so far. So we had a category that lives more of wordplay, quirky world building. or again the interactions of people that might not really fit together but then somehow have to make it work in a confined space, and the two I've talked about are spaceships. This one, Natasha Pulley, the watchmaker of Filigree Street, is very, very different from those that we've talked about so far. This is not really cozy fantasy as such, but it has a very, how shall I say, cozy and at times slightly comforting atmosphere. Not throughout, nor is this a book where we don't have heavy themes. We do actually, especially the theme of loneliness. So this is set in a, let's say, fake 19th century London. So it's one of those Victorian, slightly steampunky settings. The steampunk element is relatively low and really confined to the watchmaker of the title. The story is set in this, Victorian London, and then also in Japan. And those two kind of like storylines are also in different timelines that then are woven more and more together. So it has an interesting structure, but also, from a point of themes, it looks at like women and their status in this, like, as I say, Victorianized society that we have. Also how foreigners are treated in this world. And it also has an absolutely wonderful love story. And I mean, not this, like what we know from YA romance, where it's more about the chase than the actual getting together. But this is really about two people falling in love and wanting to be together and trying to do so at all costs. And also, which might be a blind spot on my part, I will admit that without any problems, I was rooting so much for the wrong couple in this book. That's almost woeful. But I was also really glad for the two people who then in the end get together, and think to myself, yeah, that's really nice. That's great. I can see those two together and making that work. And as I say, it's a very, gentle love story as well. So while it has some deeper and darker themes, it also has, this really gentle and positive outlook in the end then. And this is why this book made it onto this list for me today. And my last mention is something that I actually got recommended by you, my viewers. And that's the book that I picked out of the recommendation jar. Martha Wells' All System Red, the first book in the Murderbot Diaries series. And again, this is listed sometimes as cozy fantasy. And I can see why, what I know about this book so far. About a robot that gets some type of consciousness, that becomes sentient, but then uses the sentience like we humans do, by vegging out on the couch and watching soap operas on telly. That again sounds quirky and very interesting premise. So I'm really looking forward to reading this book as well. Okay, that's it for today in this admittedly very improvised roundup. Do you have other books that you think would fall into this category of feel-good books, giving you positive vibes, putting you into good humor? If you do, please let me know in the comment section. And as always, happy reading and all the best.